It is Jets Final Drive. He is Zack Rosenblatt. I am Connor Hughes. Thank you guys so much for watching wherever you are watching, whether that's smy.tv, Facebook, X, or YouTube. YouTube, absolutely the place to be. That's where we kind of like to redirect all of you guys. And the big reason why is we have a live comment section that is running throughout the duration of this show. Sam Candle is back in the studio monitoring that chat. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, want to interact with the show throughout it, you can do so there. And then she'll get in my ear and let me know what you guys are saying so that Zach and I can go back and forth on that. Zach, how you doing, buddy?
I am tired. I believe you said Sam's name right this time, by the way.
I did.
Deserve to. I mean, someone else can confirm that, but I'm pretty sure you said it right this time. But yeah, I'm very tired. It was another crappy football game in Jets land. The same old podcast is what we're about to have. And I'm pretty tired of it, frankly. I mean, you've been doing this longer than me, covering the Jets, but
yeah.
It's just like from the beginning, like it. There's a moment early in the game where you could, as soon as it happened, you're like, okay, we're about to have an ugly day, and that's exactly what it was. And somehow they go into halftime only down 10-3, and it feels like there's a mountain between the two of them, and then the game ends, and we're right back where we started, if not worse. So that's where we're at.
Where I think it actually went bad for me, Zach, was when you and I got an Uber from the hotel to the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
The Uber drop-off for Hard Rock, which is a dump, drops us off like a mile and a half away from the stadium in the Miami, Florida heat, and then tells you to walk 25 minutes to get to the stadium. Now, again, this is probably a me problem, but I have to do television. So, like, when you cover a game, you don't wear shorts and a T-shirt no matter what the temperature is out there. So I'm in jeans, boots, a dress shirt, a tie, and a blazer in, like, 97-degree heat, walking 25 minutes, a mile and a half to get there. You're in your skinny jeans and a tight shirt as well trying to get over there.
Okay, calm down.
At that point was when I was like, I can't do this. That's when it's probably going to go bad. But jokes aside, Zach, you get a feeling sometimes going into games, and they're not always right. If you talk to NYJ Matt, he'll tell you that I'm always wrong. But when you get a feeling sometimes going into a game, you'll just be like, I don't know if I like the Jets' chances in this one. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. This one specifically for me was just because I didn't like the matchups on the offensive side of the ball for the Dolphins versus the Jets defense. That didn't necessarily prove to be that big of an issue because they didn't run the ball overly effectively well. But a 27-21 loss for the Jets drops their record to 0-4. Zach, you look at the box score and you wouldn't actually think that this happened because the Jets outgained the Dolphins 404-300. The Jets out first downed the Dolphins 23-19. They had 197 rushing yards on the ground, but they lost because this team has finally found their identity. Sound the alarms, ring the bells. They have one. It's not one that they want. It's a team that is ill-prepared. It is a team that is undisciplined. And when you can say ill-prepared and undisciplined about a team, that means that they are poorly coached. And Zach, we're going to get to all of this, but the numbers right now are just getting staggering. I know no one really expected this team to necessarily make a run to the playoffs or make a Super Bowl run, but you were expecting a hard-fought team, a nitty-gritty team, and instead, here we are, the calendar about to turn to October, and the Jets are 0-4. Only one team has made the playoffs at 0-4 in the NFL history. That's the 1992 Chargers. This is the third time in team history that a first-time head coach has started 0-4. Lou Holtz, and Adam Gase were the other two. Adam Gase is a funky one, though, because he actually did get his first win in Week 5 against the Cowboys, and that's who the Jets are going to play in Week 5. We are steamrolling towards 15 years absent the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys and Denver Broncos, two teams that are pretty good, at least on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys, are coming up. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play?
Oh, man. It's rough, man. To be 0-4, like you and I talked about last week, we called it a must-win game because, you can try to explain away the first three losses and say, okay, well, these are three probably playoff teams, and they're 8-1 combined, and nobody expected us to win those games, so why is everybody freaking out? Well, you can't say that with the Dolphins game. You can't even say, well, we almost won again. Like, you can't count this as an almost win because you won against a bad team and you lost. And so you are worse than, even if you're making all these mistakes, you're doing it in a game against a bad team where the game's close enough where that matters anyway. So, like, this team was ill-prepared for the moment. Like you said, this was a Monday night game. They had an extra day. They had all week to prepare for what the Dolphins were going to show, and they did not adjust. Like, the the biggest indictment on this coaching staff you can make beyond even the penalties and, whatever, it's the inability to adjust to what the other team is showing you. I mean, you saw it last week with the way the blitzes, they were never able to adjust on offense. This week, they were never able to adjust to the naked boots on defense. And the other team just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it. And I think you asked a good question, I believe, to Aaron Glenn about.
Whoa. Cut that clip. Let me get, I'm going to play that over and over.
I know. I'll never admit that I said that. And I'll say it was AI if they play that clip. But you asked them about, like, so our teams, like, seeing that. I forget what the exact wording was, but our team's seeing that this is something that they can take advantage of. And he's like, well, it was one game. Well, then you come back and you didn't adjust to, like, other things. So, I think, again, at the end of the day, I think a lot of times we emphasize too heavily on the coaches' mistakes when the players have to go out and do their jobs and these guys are not doing their jobs. But there absolutely is criticism to be had for this coaching staff. And whether you want to say they're outmanned or not, like, you went against another 0-3 team, you should at least be at level with them. And it did not feel... even though they could have won this game if not for all their turnovers, they didn't even feel level with the Dolphins, frankly.
No, they didn't. And I think it's a backhanded testament, but I mean, yeah, the Jets didn't roll over. The scoreboard was eventually pretty close. I mean, there was a point there where the Jets punted the ball or where the Dolphins were up 2 possessions. They got the ball back, and you kind of thought, like, oh, this is it. Like, they're going to make a run, and now it's going to be a 3-possession game, and the route is on. And the Jets defense did hold firm. Like, the final 4 possessions of the game, if I'm not mistaken, the Dolphins punted 3 times and kicked a field goal. So the Jets defense did stouten it up a little bit. But that is actually where we're going to start today's show, Zach. And going into its defense, if I didn't make that clear, we're going to be talking about the defense here to start the show. So going into this game, my other producer for Jets pregame live and Jets postgame live, Mike Robinson, one thing that we do every week is that he'll kind of give me a couple topics to chase within the locker room when he knows I'm going to be on the pregame show. And it can be offense, defense, players, schematics, something like that. It just gives me a chance to survey the locker room and talk to guys. And defense was the topic this week going into the Dolphins game, is what's wrong with the defense? How do you turn it around? And so I spent the week in the locker room talking to guys. And going into this game, the 2 guys that stood out the most to me was Jamie Sherwood and Sauce Gardner. Those were the 2 guys I spent a lot of time talking to. And Sherwood told me that in a perfect world, he would love to wake up and overnight the Jets defense would be fixed. And overnight, everything would get better with the defense. But that's simply not the case in the NFL. There are tendencies and things within this scheme that are similar to Robert Saleh's, but the terminology is different. The blitzing is different. Sherwood, who played every year in Saleh's defense, doesn't necessarily know, and this is the case for everybody, for certain what everyone else is doing. He's still kind of focusing on himself while not also worrying about everyone else. There's just not cohesiveness, and he compared it to Robert Saleh's defense in year 1, which ranked 32nd in points per game and yards allowed per game and was one of the worst defenses I think we've ever seen. And then you go to year 2 after the repetitions had been built up, and the defense was ranked 4th in those same 2 categories. So he said, don't panic, don't worry, don't freak out. We're going to be better. He fully expects the team to be in high gear by the middle of the season. Sauce Gardner was a little less worrisome about, like, pushing it forward. His thing to me was like, we just need a turnover, we just need a turnover, we just need a turnover. And once we get one, the entire game, the entire vibe, the entire season can turn around and we'll get back to having fun again. Here's the problem, Zach. That's what the guys were talking to me about leading into the Dolphins game. This game starts, and you saw none of that. There's no pressure from the quarterback, 0 quarterback hits, 0 quarterback sacks. I know they were without Jermaine Johnson, but I don't necessarily know if that's an excuse. 0 turnovers. I think Rich Cimini of ESPN had the stat. It's like the first time a team is winless 0-4 with no turnovers in like 100 years or something like that.
They're one of like 4 teams in 90 years is what it was, but it's bad, yeah.
So it's and the biggest issue I think too is that it's like nothing's getting better. Like nothing's getting better. And I think what's most damning, and I want you to expand on this, is that every single game the Jets defense faces, there's like no adjusting. It just feels like these teams, these offenses, find one thing that works and then just do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And there's not like the Jets are just like, holy crap, they did it again. Oh, and on Monday night it was the naked boot. And it's just consistent and incessant, just bootleg. You can't blame Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens wasn't the problem this week. It was just like everything else failed. Like they actually even shut down the Dolphins' run. They averaged like 4 yards a carry, I think, but that was inflated because of a couple chunk runs on the second to last series of the game or last series of the game. Like they kept the running game in check. It was just, I don't know, man. I don't know where you go from here.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of penalties. I mean, you could argue the veracity of some of them, I guess, and we're going to get into that later. But there was the Kiko Maui Go one was very costly. I think it was on third down. Roughing the unnecessary roughness. I had some stats that I also tweeted out earlier. The 0 takeaways. They have 6 total sacks this season, and 4 of them came in week 1. They have allowed 27 plus points in 3 of 4 games. They have the 30th EPA per dropback, so pass defense, and they've allowed opponents to score a field goal or touchdown on 54% of their drives.
Wild stat that is. Right,
which is the third worst. That means there's teams are scoring on more than half of their drives over the course of the season, and that's whatever you want to point to, like stats to point like, oh, so and so's playing well, so and so is doing well in run defense. This one guy's doing well in pass defense. Blah blah blah. Like at the end of the day, you guys are giving up a lot of points. Steve Wilkes has not, frankly, acquitted himself well. Aaron Glenn's a big part of this defense. This is a combo of Aaron Glenn's defense and Steve Wilkes' defense and Robert Sala's defense, and they just kind of mixed and matched all of them together, and it doesn't seem to be working. And so you have moments like the naked boot where, Sauce Gardner says like the pressure was supposed to get there up front. Yeah. But it didn't, so that's why Darren Waller is wide open, and so that's why Darren Waller gets that touchdown. And you have Michael Carter, trailing behind receivers and struggling, a guy who's good for most of his career before some injuries, and you have all these. The problem is almost more that like the guys that are supposed to be their best players are not playing well, and we've talked about that week after week. Sauce Gardner, frankly, has not played that well. Like I think that is safe to say. I think last year you and I were kind of at the head of in terms of reporters like defending how he's playing, because I think the criticism got a little out of hand last year because he had created such a high standard the first 2 years. But the reality is still he doesn't force turnovers, and he is being targeted by these opposing offenses. And so, at the end of the day, Tua only had under 200 passing yards. Some of that came largely because Tyreek Hill had that gruesome injury that we all saw. And it sounds like he's doing better, but he's probably not going to be playing for a long time. But this defense, it's full of holes. The depth is terrible. They keep getting hurt. Now, I don't even know who's going to be their nickel corner next week because Michael Carter has a concussion and Jarvis Brownlee's still hurt. So, you have another hole in the run. Yeah, Isaiah Oliver, who looked quite poor, frankly. He had, I think, 3 or 4 missed tackles in this game. So, the missed tackles, still happening. I think they had 10 this week. They've had 10-plus in 3 straight games. It's just all the stuff, to your point, that they talked about all summer. The tackling, we're tackling in camp. It's like the craziest thing us reporters have ever seen. We never see this tackling thing in camp. What is this? They were going to be amazing at tackling. I didn't say that, but I'm just exaggerating. But the penalties, they have officials at camp. We're not going to allow it. This was the most penalized team in the NFL last year. I will not allow that to be the case. Well, they're being penalized. I think they're 10th right now. And if you look the last 2 weeks, they're probably in the top 5 in terms of the most penalized teams. So, and the problem is, again, it comes down to the pre-snap penalties and in some cases the post-snap penalties. And a lot of that stuff is on defense. And, if the defense is playing this poorly week in, week out, or they're this inconsistent, then the Jets have to win high-scoring games, and there's no evidence they can do that.
Go back to the opener, Zach, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, and kudos to them. They've got 1 loss in the season. They're 4-1, 3-1. That first game, I remember watching Aaron Rodgers, and it was the least impressed I've been with a quarterback that threw 4 touchdowns probably ever, because it wasn't like a vintage, unbelievable quarterback performance. I remember sitting there being like, man, guys are just wide open. Get kudos to Aaron for making the throws, but guys are wide open in the Jets secondary. And you look what the Steelers have done since they dropped 34 points on the Jets. It's 17, 21, 24 points. And the 21 points came against a Patriots team that really isn't all that good. So you start to see some of these numbers that teams are compiling, bad teams are compiling. And yeah, we were both in the locker room after the game, and I had a Jets player that I was talking to who just kept shaking his head, hanging his head, and saying, they are not better than us. They are not better than us. And genuinely, I came out of this Jets-Dolphins Monday Night Showdown thinking the Dolphins stink. They're not good. That's not a good football team. But they still dropped 27 on the Jets, and I came away thinking, wow, they're a lot better than the Jets are. I mean, again, Tua Tagovailoa was fine. Tua came into this game leading the NFL in quarterbacks that have played at least 50% of their team's snaps in turnover-worthy plays and turnover-worthy play percentage according to Pro Football Focus. He had one turnover-worthy play against the Jets. How many times did we see Tua threading the needle or dropping back and uncorking one deep to Hill or Waddle before Hill went down? No. What was he doing? These naked boots to guys that are wide open in the secondary. Waddle on third down, burning Michael Carter, who the Jets played. Brandon Stevens had a pretty big game, but then there's Sauce Gardner getting beat by Darren Waller, who was a rapper 7 months ago, like in the back of the end zone for a touchdown, and he's blaming the pass rush for not getting home. And maybe the most alarming thing, and I can't take credit for this, I actually had a coach text me and point this out to me. He goes, dude, they are not having fun. And I was like, how do you know? Like I brought that up to Sherwood in the locker room. He said, no, we're having fun. We're having fun. He goes, no, Connor, they're not having fun. And it was with the game still 2 possessions. Dolphins had the ball with a chance to basically ice the game. Go down the field, score a touchdown. It's over. It's going to be a rout. Everyone go home, start the buses. The Jets defense came up with probably their biggest stop of the game. Basically, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 3 and out. After the Dolphins punt team's coming on, the Jets stand on third down. All of the players on defense are just jogging off the field. There's no butt slapping. There's no cheering. There's no jumping. There's no, come on, guys, we're still in this. Let's go. They're just walking back to the field. Next possession, the Jets do the exact same thing. Force another punt. Stand tall on their head again with the Dolphins presented a chance to drive down the field and end it. They make a stand. What do? Jogging off the field. There's no fun. There's no energy. There's no life. No one is feeding off of each other. And maybe it's because they're not getting sacks. Maybe it's because they're not jumping on these loose balls. Maybe it's because they don't have any interceptions. But either way, it's not getting better. I mean, you look, going into this game, I genuinely felt the Dolphins had a chance to drop 40 on the Jets. I thought it was a matchup nightmare. They were going to run rampant without Jermaine Johnson and all that. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I mean, it was a close enough game on the box score, but you still felt a bad Dolphins team was significantly better than the Jets because this defense is just lost. They're just lost.
I mean, I think part of what you're seeing, and, I don't know how you even fix this. I think there's a part of this group that is trying so hard to not make mistakes that they're making mistakes. That's why you're seeing guys over pursuing on these tackles. Like Tony Adams, again, he should not be on the field, frankly. But he had a really brutal missed tackle, I believe, on one of the touchdowns, where he ran up to the guy and he ran right by him, and it was like he didn't know what he was doing. The fact that these guys don't know basic fundamentals of tackling at this point in the season, at this point in their careers, is just jarring. And I don't know. I don't know where they go from here on defense because their defensive line is kind of in shambles without Jermaine Johnson.
He should be back this week, though. It sounds like.
But even if he is, what version of him are we getting? Is he going to stay healthy? And can he play the full workload? And if not, you still can't play Will McDonald more than half the snaps because they don't trust him. Michael Clemens didn't make any mistakes, which is a win, but he's still playing too much. He had the highest snap count again. Brady McGregor is frankly not a good football player, and he was playing too much. And I don't know that Tyler Barron has shown enough to even be on an NFL field. So, then you look at linebacker, and it's Sherwood struggling, and then Kiko Maui-Go, I don't think, was especially great, and the safeties have been inconsistent. Brandon Stevens has been inconsistent. Michael Carter has been inconsistent, and he's injured, and it just feels like this defense is going nowhere fast. And it's just crazy to think about, the heights they reached with this defense, where every week they were holding the other team to no passing yards, to no points, and they were losing because the offense couldn't do anything. And the offense is better. It's not amazing, but now the defense is just the problem. And it is, it's something that, has been problems in the history of the Jets, but it had been a strength the last few years. And to see it fall back this much with a lot of the same personnel here, by the way, that's important to know. This isn't a completely new defense, or player-wise. There are a lot of returning guys, and they are a lot worse. So
11 missed tackles against the Dolphins. They had 16 a week ago, 8 against the Steelers, I believe, and 10 against the Bills, so that's not getting any better. And like I said, the problems that we've seen and the problems that we highlighted and the areas of concern that we thought the Jets were going to have, Zach, when we talked about this team in before free agency and before the draft, well, after all these offseason additions and their draft class and all that stuff, they're still the exact same problems. I mean, it's a big concern. Including a big concern, which I thought there were a couple really impressive sound bites that have come out of this game, including this one that we're about to play, Sauce Gardner discussing the officials. Let's take a listen.
feel like, me personally, us not winning, like, because I watch football all the time, and I just feel like, I don't know if this is wrong to say, but I think I get called for more stuff just based off of us just not winning. I watch these winning programs, and it'd be some egregious things, and it don't get called, like, letting the players play. Like, I got caught on something today where it's like I know the route, everything, and I'm just supposed to let him just push off at the top of the route. I'm seeing him count his steps, all that. Like, he's not going to catch the ball regardless. I just feel like in general, even the Mike Evans ones, I just feel like us not winning is just what goes on. Like, if we don't win, and I feel like we don't get the calls that we should get, and we get called for the calls that we probably shouldn't get called for. So, I mean, obviously that's not the only reason why I want to win. I want to win because I don't like losing. You know what I'm trying to say? So.
There are definitely some missed calls against the Jets. There are some bad calls against the Jets. I think that anytime you're looking at this, it's selective perception. It's just a feeling. And unfortunately for Gardner, and I've noticed this, like, he had such an unbelievable start to his career those first 2 years. I mean, a first-team All-Pro is a ridiculous honor to bestow upon someone, and he did it twice his first 2 years in the NFL. But there were so many people around the NFL that were like, he holds, that it's almost like this attention and highlight and spotlight on him now whenever he's out there, where he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. He did his first couple of years. Not anymore. Referees are watching him, and you saw that. I mean, Sauce got popped for another DPI this week, which resulted in a first down. Got beat for a touchdown by Darren Waller. He only allowed 2 completions, including that one to Waller. So it wasn't like he was horrendous, but you're paying him to be a lockdown corner. You're paying him more than any other corner in the NFL. You want him to be Revis 2.0, and that, unfortunately, for Gardner just isn't necessarily happening. And yeah, I go back, and we got a couple fan questions we're going to get to here, but I remember covering the Jets in 2000. This was either 2015 or 2016, but Brandon Marshall was getting ready to play. He was getting ready to play the Eagles. It was either the Eagles or the Dolphins, ironically. And they had a cornerback by the name of Byron Maxwell. And Brandon Marshall believed that Byron Maxwell was the most aggressive and egregious holder of a corner across the entire NFL. That's what Brandon Marshall believed. He didn't think he ever got called, though, because no one was paying attention to it. So he gave his press conference during the week, and anytime Brandon spoke, it brought a lot of attention to what he was going to say. He was going to get back pages. And he said he was going to have a yellow flag in his pocket during the game, and his goal was that whenever he got held and the referees didn't throw a flag, he was going to throw a flag. Well, that became the back page of the Daily News, the Star-Ledger, the New York Post. Everyone talked about it. Well, what happened? The game started. The referees were paying attention to Maxwell more than they would have been organically, and flags started flying on Maxwell. That's kind of what happened on Sauce, and unfortunately there's nothing he can do about it. He's known and has a reputation, justified or not, as a player that is handsy. The referees are aware of it, so he's going to get those calls. And I love Sauce. I think he's a great kid. I think he sometimes can get in his head a little bit. But you compare what he said about the penalties right then to what Garrett Wilson said. Now, Wilson, and we'll get to this in a little bit, the OPI on him was ridiculous. That was like horrendous OPI on Garrett Wilson. What did he say? Yeah, questionable call, but I'm just going to not do that anymore and make sure that there leaves no doubt for the referees. You didn't hear that from Sauce. And I think that's the result right now of a defensive side that is just spiraling. So we say this throughout the show, Zach. Appreciate everybody where they're watching, SMY, Facebook, X, or YouTube. YouTube's the place to be because that live comment section. We got a couple questions coming in here. This one from Andrew Lee before we move in to some offensive stuff, which is usually how we start the show. Do you believe Steve Wilks would survive another week like this? If this happens again against the Cowboys.
Would he survive? Yeah, I think he would. I think Glenn is going to be patient with it. I don't know how patient, but I don't see Wilkes getting fired, like if that's what they're asking. If they're asking, like, could I see a scenario where Aaron Glenn takes over play calling? Yeah, I could see that. I haven't heard anything to indicate it's coming or coming anytime soon. Because if you hear the quotes a lot of times, they keep saying how they think the scheme has been fine. It's just a matter of execution and not making these mistakes. And that's usually, coaches defending the play calls and the coaching side of things. But at the end of the day, Steve Wilks his defense has given up 27 points in 3 out of 4 games. Like I said, like they've not done their job. So I wonder how long of a leash Steve Wilkes has. He's somebody that Aaron Glenn brought in because he's an experienced coach, former head coach, somebody he's leaned on all offseason. He's a highly respected guy in the league, but he also has bounced around the league a little bit as a defensive coordinator. He weirdly had more success as an interim coach and a head coach than he did as a defensive coordinator if you look across the board. So, it's gone a lot more poorly than I expected. Like Tanner Engstrand, I almost have been more impressed with and trust more than Steve Wilkes right now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of goes hand in hand with the other question that we had from Sam that sent over us, which is basically from the Big Lebrowski, great tag. Why doesn't Glenn coach the defense? And he's given his guys chances, and I'm in complete and total agreement with you, Zach. I don't think there's any chance of Wilkes getting fired. I mean, Robert Saleh stuck with Jeff Ulbrich when that was a historically bad defense, and you saw they turned it around after you. They're going to stick with Wilkes. But the heat will be dialed up, and the more people clamor for it, I mean, Glenn's going to have to answer to it, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we get to a point where he starts calling the plays. Garden State Hemp said, crazy take, Connor. Cornerbacks are all handsy. You have to be able to play the position. I agree with you. This is just in reference to what I was saying about Sauce. I agree they're all handsy, but when you get a reputation as somebody who holds, and you get a reputation, I agree with you. Every cornerback is handsy. It's just about what you can get away with. But when you have that reputation and everybody is talking about it, when Sauce holds, it can be less egregious than the person next to him. It can be less often than the person next to him. But when he does, it's going to be magnified significantly more. His mishaps, his mistakes, his holds will be on a spotlight, fair or not. I don't think that's fair, but that's just how it is because it's his reputation. It's almost like guilt by association. That's what people are going to be thinking about him. Referees right now are watching him. They're watching him, and they have a thought that like in the back of the referee's head, every time they're looking at Sauce Gardner, they're thinking this guy holds a lot. That's what they don't think about that necessarily with Brandon Stevens or Michael Carter or Stingley. That's what they think about with Sauce, and unfortunately, it's going to be something he's going to have to battle. All right, Jets. All right, Zach. Let's move on a little bit to bright moments. I don't necessarily know if this was a major bright spot in the game, but Justin Fields was solid. I thought he was solid. I think you saw, unfortunately, some of the limitations that Fields has as a quarterback in this game. When you actually go back and watch the All-22 and you were to rewatch this game, you can see his warts that popped up. But this is the game that the Jets will take 99 out of 100 times. I would actually say 100 out of 100 times. The Jets would love this performance from Justin Fields. 20 of 27, 226 yards, the touchdown, 7 rushes, 81 yards, 43 yards of that on one play with basically a broken play on 4th down that looked like the Dolphins had it completely shot. Going to get the ball back with good position, go down the field, blow this game open, and instead Fields reverses course of action, breaks down the left sideline, touchdown Jets, and they got some momentum until the Dolphins went right down the field against the Jets defense and scored a touchdown of their own. But you'll take this from Fields any day of the week. Tanner Engstrand will, Aaron Glenn will, the entire Jets organization will.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those numbers at the end of a game, like you'd think the Jets would win most of those, honestly, because that's probably what you expect out of like a good Justin Fields. It's kind of what you were saying. It's somewhere between how he played in week 1 and how he played in week 3. His touchdown one was pretty phenomenal. It kind of is the quintessential Justin Fields play, the kind of play that he's one of the only guys that can make. And it came on a really bad play call where he was getting blown up. It was about to get sacked, and he was able to escape it, and then he evaded some tacklers and made this amazing touchdown run. And it was one of the more impressive quarterback runs I've seen since covering this team and really covering this league. He wasn't accurate at times.
You weren't there for Sam's against the Broncos. That's right. Sam had one against the Broncos. I think it was on Thursday Night Football. That it was almost like he did, if I'm not mistaken, like a fake slide. It was like a 50 or 60-yard touchdown. That one was pretty good, too. It was almost like he kept waiting for it. Sam was athletic, but he wasn't Justin Fields athletic. You were waiting for him to go down, and he never did. It was a really nice play.
But, yeah, I mean, if this is how Justin Fields is going to play every week, they'll be in a lot of games. Yeah. But the reality is what we keep saying over and over again is when you're down and you can't run the ball every play like they want to, like, can this Jets team do enough to win? And we just haven't seen that they are able to do that. And, it would help to be able to have some passing game earlier. I know that the drive where they ran it all and then Braylon Allen fumbled it, like, obviously a lot changes if he doesn't do that. But being able to pass the ball would help the running game also, by the way. So So that's the problem. Like, they're very one-dimensional, and when you fall behind, and it's what you and I aren't the only ones to say it. Everybody said it. If you're a running team that only wants to run the ball, when you fall behind, you can't run the ball as much anymore. That's just the way NFL football works. So, that's something they're working through, and they're going to have to figure it out. Maybe they're getting more comfortable with Fields as he seems to be progressing as a passer, and hopefully they start taking shots downfield, which they haven't really done. Get Mason Taylor involved. Find another wide receiver that can do anything. Like, none of these guys have contributed in any way, and get Breece Hall more involved in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I think that Fields was solid. I mean, again, he threw one pass. What is this? 1, 2, 3.
Hey, he was fine.
Beyond 10 yards, one beyond 20. So there are warts to his game. Fields is not an elite passer of the football, but you deal with his inefficiencies as a thrower because what he can do as an athlete and a runner. And you saw the inaccuracies on some missed throws. There was a near interception over the middle because he threw it behind Garrett Wilson. But you're going to have to deal with that. And this is the production you'll take from Fields time and time and time again. I'll be honest, though, Zach, there was a point there in the first half, definitely in the third quarter, where I didn't understand why they continually dropped back and threw to Justin Fields or threw with Justin Fields. And it's not a detriment to Fields. This isn't a Fields insult stat in any way, shape, or form. And we're going to get to the offensive line in a second. But the running game was remarkable. I mean, the Dolphins' front looked so soft. The Dolphins' front looked completely uninterested in playing this game. From the first possession all the way pretty much until the end, the Jets were picking up 4, 5, 6 yards at will. Their worst runs were gaining 3 yards. In fact, there was a play on 3rd and 4 where they handed it off to Isaiah Davis and he got the first down. Like, I genuinely, we saw a couple series in training camp, Zach, where they literally ran the ball like 12 straight times and went down the field and scored. I really felt that's what they should have done. Because every time they dropped back with Fields and the Dolphins knew they wanted to throw, or the Dolphins realized a pass was coming, they were able to design some interesting blitz concepts where they didn't necessarily overload like the Buccaneers were, but you didn't know who was coming, and that's how they were getting pressure on Fields. The running the ball was working. And to get away from it, and it's very weird to say this out loud, that you got away from the run when you ran 28 times for 197 yards as a team. Fields, we just showed, had 81, but Hall, 14 for 81. Allen, 4 for 26 before the injury. Davis, 3 for 9. Everybody was having success. Why get away from it? This is what coordinators do. They get two in their own head and they think, oh, we've got to throw. Sometimes you don't. You can just keep running the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add there, but Breece, I will say he was back to looking like he did in week 1. I thought he played really well. So they still have not really involved him in the passing game in the way that I thought they would have, like, all season. I just haven't really felt like he was been involved. And Aaron Glenn said they need to involve him more. That would be like the main fix. Even you can attach that to the running game because some screens out of the backfield, things like that. You need to get Breece the ball more because they just don't have weapons outside of Garrett Wilson, and Breece is your number 2 weapon in this offense. So.
Yeah, and we mentioned this before. Like, Garrett Wilson, there was only one other receiver who caught a pass. It was Allen Lazard. He had 1 grab for 8 yards. You're just going to have to deal with that. Arian Smith is still developing. Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, who was inactive, are not good. Lazard's not good. I mean, it's just you're going to have to. We knew this was a problem going into the year, much like safety, much like defensive line depth, much like a million other things the Jets didn't fix, but that's a big one. Last point on the offense before moving on here, Zach, is Glenn sassed me up a little bit when I brought up the blitz concepts, and you mentioned it earlier, that Todd Bowles deployed a week ago, and a copycat league just trying to do the same things. The Dolphins did a bit of that, and they didn't overload blitz, like I said, but you didn't know who was coming. And I think the pressure metrics are a little skewed because they only had 3 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. But Justin Fields was running for his life a lot. And in the fourth quarter, things stabilized a little bit. The Dolphins were playing coverage, nursing that 2-possession lead, which is why you saw the stats start to add up a little bit and look good. But the offensive line, pass protection-wise, becoming an issue. They can still assert their dominance in the run game, but I'm concerned about their ability to protect Justin Fields and Fields to last more than 2 or 3 game intervals without going down, because it's a problem. And it was a problem against the Bucs, and it was a problem here again against the Dolphins.
I did feel like Fields held the ball too long on a few occasions, and I think Olu did play better, but I would say the interior was not especially good. And I think it's fair at this point to criticize Josh Myers. You haven't really noticed him making a lot of like blocking errors, but he's the one who's calling out the protections, things like that. And, not being able to call out these blitzes as the center, I think is maybe an issue that isn't being addressed. And so, you have those guys and you have Membo, who I think has a lot of flashy plays and he's really, really good for a 21-year-old rookie. I do think he allowed 4 pressures according to PFF. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's what they had. So wasn't a perfect game, but you're not going to have perfect games from your rookie tackle. You need that from the veterans, and the rest of the group has been inconsistent. But the run blocking was significantly better. So I feel better about the O-line today than I did a week ago.
That's all. I think part of that's too. Dolphins just.
Yeah, but credit where it's due. They were blocking them.
Yes.
So
yeah, they have. Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen plenty of times where they didn't. Appreciate you guys for tuning into another Jets Final Drive, wherever you guys are watching. We constantly say this. YouTube's the place to be, though. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to SNY's YouTube channel, because then not only will you get access to Jets Final Drive, you'll get access to Jets Mailbag, which is the other digital show I co-host with Janae Coakley. You'll get access to Jets Pregame Live and Jets Postgame Live with the great guys there. Steve Gelbs, Bart Scott, Connor Rogers, Willie Colon. They do a tremendous job there. And the other shows, The Putback with Ian Begley, Mets content, if you want to suscept yourself to that, and Yankee stuff as well as they make their World Series chase. Moving on here, Zach. NFL cliches are my favorite. I love them because you hear them all the time, and occasionally you have some that are pretty valid. One buzzword cliche is always identity, and teams wanting to find their identity, develop an identity, cultivate an identity, establish an identity, and they carry that identity through every fiber of the organization. Mention this at the top of the show, and we can expand on this now because I'm curious how you see the fix to this. The Jets have their identity. And I got a text from an NFL source, a coach on another team who has never worked for the Jets before. He's never worked for the Jets. So this is not Robert Saleh. This isn't.
So he's worked for the Jets. Got it.
He has never worked for the Jets before. Who was watching that game, and from an on-field production, I'm not talking about ownership or management or anything like that. From the on-field production, texted me during the game and said, "Wow, that's a buttoned up operation you guys got there," and that's the reputation the Jets are having, they're developing. Their identity is ill-prepared, undisciplined, poorly coached, and that's why you have a team that was flagged 16 times, 13 accepted. That's why you have a team that turns the ball over 3 times, including one from Braylon Allen as he is crossing the pylon to go into the end zone with one of the most impressive drives we've seen from the Jets, especially on the first drive of the game. That's why you have the fair catch inside the 5-yard line, the fumble coming out of the third quarter. It's just, it's bad. And I don't know how you fix it, because these discipline problems, these headsy football problems, this high IQ problems that Jets are having, they're all things that Glenn has been preaching incessantly since he got the job. Yet they're all still there here a month into the season, and they're not going away. They're not getting better. It's not even like you can see little baby steps. You might see a half a step forward, but the next week the Jets are 10 steps back. It's very, very, very disheartening.
So this was something I wanted to address. Like the flip side of the coaching part of this is I feel like the byproduct of them jettisoning all of these older players is that I don't know that they have like the leadership in that locker room they need. And that's not to say I think like Garrett's a bad leader. I just think he's an emotional competitor who cares, but is he going to rally the troops? Like, they don't have a rally the troops leader on this team. It's a young team. CJ Mosley was the number 1 leader of this team for the last 5 years. JFM. I mean, you look at guys like
Carl Lawson.
Carl Lawson, Sheldon Rankins, Morgan Moses. I even put DJ Reed. Like, people might react to this the wrong way, but Aaron Rodgers, you could even argue, at the very least, he's not going to sit there and let things happen. And I think you watch these guys go to the bench and you don't see anybody trying to rally everybody up. And I don't know what the solution to that is. I mean, they brought in a guy in Harrison Phillips, but he came in right before the season. I don't know if he feels comfortable enough to be that kind of guy.
Great point.
Devontae Adams felt comfortable enough to make a speech to the team 5 days after getting traded to them.
That was a Jamal Adams lead. That was fake.
But I mean, and that's a problem here. I think one of the biggest criticisms Saleh had, and I think it was valid, was he's like, I want the players to lead themselves. and he was able to say that because he had guys in the locker room you could lead on. And so I think this goes to the 2022 draft class. They've become the core of this team, both in terms of being leaders and like just being the most important players they have. They're in year 4, and like these need to be the guys that rally everybody. They need to be the ones who, whether it's in the locker room at halftime, whether it's on the sideline, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson, like they need to be the ones that everybody leans on, because Justin Fields is not a rah-rah loud leader. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Who's the type A on this roster? Like I don't know who that would be, and that's a problem. I mean, Armand Membo is a quiet, soft-spoken kid. Olu Fashanu is very smart, but not like the biggest talker. Like maybe John Simpson would be the one you could point to, but I don't know that your left guard should be the one leading your team. So I think that's an underrated thing that maybe we undervalued when we said, okay, they got younger. We completely understand why. You're building around this core. Yeah. Yes, they were way too old. Get rid of the old guys. But you need somebody in there. And I think one thing that surprised me this offseason, was that Aaron Glenn didn't bring in any of his guys from Detroit, like at all. Like there was basically, like Josh Reynolds was the only guy that even had ties to Detroit. Whereas if you look at Saleh, I know people, like when a new staff comes in, people always like, yeah. He brought in a bunch of guys from the 49ers because they knew what Saleh expected, they knew what he wanted, and they knew what kind of culture he was trying to build. Whether it worked or not is debatable, but like he brought these guys in because they understood him, and I think maybe that was a misjudgment by Aaron Glenn. He was trying to create his own identity here, and I don't know if they really pursued all these Lions guys, but I think it would have been smart to bring in guys who just knew what Aaron Glenn was about. And so they're not all just like learning how this works. I'm not saying this, but like this is the case. But if there's guys that are like scared to make mistakes because they know they're going to get chewed out or something like that, like they know where Aaron Glenn's coming from better if they've played with him before. And you can have a guy in the locker room be like, look, this is what he means when he says this to you. There's nobody in there to do that. So I think that's
a tremendous point.
Yeah.
Fans, I think, mistake good players for leaders. Because this question comes from YouTube, from Sam, the production god, of what about Quinnen as a leader? And I think that's another really good example where Quinnen is a guy people look to and follow. Jamie Sherwood is a person who's a tremendous communicator. Tony Adams is a nice communicator. But like even Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, they're not really type A's. Breece Hall is absolutely not a type A. Fields is not a type A. These aren't guys that they're good players. In some cases, they're great players, but there's a difference. And Saleh, it's on Hard Knocks where he talks about like, you have your followers, your leaders, your soldiers, your like all like his whole hierarchy. And you have
your crows and your
You have to have like 3 or 4 true leaders, like the guys that are in the front commanding the soldiers and going. And CJ was one of those guys. He's gone. Aaron, for all his faults, was one of those guys, like you said, Zach, and he's gone. And it's honestly, it's something I haven't necessarily thought of, but it almost feels like Aaron Glenn was like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be it. And it's true. Like, the coach can set the tone, but once he sets the tone, you need the players in the locker room to police it, because the coach isn't sitting in the locker room with the guys on their time off. The coach isn't in the locker room with the guys hanging out, just chilling. Like, you need the guys to continue to enforce that message and enforce that culture and enforce that style in that moment. And you're right. I don't know who's doing that. I don't. I don't see anyone in there. I don't think John Simpson could be that guy, but I don't think his voice resonates like Mosley's used to, or like Franklin Myers used to, or Rankins, like you said. I mean, it is a void that is there. Now, real quick before we move on this, because I don't, as far as turning it around, it's on the players to do it. It's the coaches obviously have done everything they can. I thought the Breece Hall quote here, by the way, which we're gonna throw to. This is one of the best I've ever heard from a player in the locker room in terms of just brutal honesty. So let's roll that clip.
It's a tale of 3 out of our 4 losses. Teams will shoot themselves in the foot, then we come back and shoot ourselves in the head. So
it's one of those quotes. It's one of those quotes where I feel like you and I think generally have a pretty good read on like the quotes that are going to blow up when they happen. That's one that I think everybody in the moment, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I got to get this one up. So I'm just like pounding away on my phone, trying to listen to what he's saying, because Breece can be really, really good post game, as you saw. I think he went in prepared with that quote. Like you don't just come up with that off the dome. I think he knew he wanted to say that to us, and now it's everywhere. Like I've seen it being memed to oblivion. But
it's going to keep being memed. It's
Yeah.
a great quote.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
Yeah, Brees wasn't done though, because he
Yeah.
followed up that where. So Zach, you and I do this thing, and I hope like Costello isn't listening to this, so he doesn't jump in on our fun. But if you know the game is going a certain direction and you know the game is over, one thing that you and I like doing is we go down into the bowels of the stadium, because you're a writer, I'm a writer, and sometimes that's where you get truly great color. And you can sit there and you can watch the players and the coaches walk off the field, and you can see things. You'll see Woody Johnson walk off the field, Christopher Johnson come off the field, and you can notice things that you can use as a lead, as you can use as imagery, as kind of paint the state of the team when guys are truly raw and emotional and passionate before they have a chance to settle down when they eventually meet us. Once we were done watching that, we went and we sat in the press conference room waiting for Aaron Glenn. There was one wall separating us from the locker room. When I tell you, Aaron Glenn was blowing his cool, blowing his lid, freaking out at the Jets within that locker room. I have not heard a coach scream like that in a good long while. Saleh obviously never did. Adam Gase never did. Really didn't see it too often from Todd. Rex probably did, but that's before my time. Glenn was heated. I mean, it was a passionate rallying cry. My thing with that, though, was anyone listening? Because, again, he's been saying this since OTAs, minicamp, training camp. How many times? The first training camp summer, Zach, we all had penalty counters. We used to check off all the penalties that were thrown against the Jets, first, second, third team, and they're not getting any better. It's alarming.
So what I just want to not correct you.
I forgot the Brees Hall. Yeah, finish the Brees Hall point of that story. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about it. How
Wait,
the
what
headphones.
Brees Hall?
The headphones.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. So this is one of the funnier.
Brees' second great quote. Brees' second great quote of the day. This is awesome.
Well, and I think it needs to be analyzed deeper, and I kind of want to follow up with Brees about it. So he says he has a routine after the game where he immediately goes to the cold tub and puts on his headphones. Because we asked him, like, what was Aaron Glenn's message, because we heard him yelling. And he's like, I didn't hear it because I have this routine where as soon as the game's over, I go into the cold tub, put on my headphones. So he just puts on noise-canceling headphones while the coach is doing the post-game speech. I don't know. I feel like we need to clarify with him, because that's just like maybe that's what he does. Maybe he's like, what am I going to gain from these? But
what did he say?
And so that was my lead. I led with that into the Aaron Glenn thing, because I'm like, he had to have felt the reverberations from Aaron Glenn's voice. But I just wanted to say, you said I haven't heard anything like that. We usually don't hear that in general, because I think a lot of these locker rooms were not positioned in the way that we were. So it's possible that you've missed coaches yelling at the team, I want to say. But it was loud, it was expletive filled, and at the end of the day, I think those guys in that locker room know that they're 0-4 for a reason, because they've been stinking up the joint. So I don't even think they necessarily needed him to yell at them, but I get why he did at the same time. And also just a little behind the curtain, how the sausage is made. Like, Kaz and I are sitting there and we're like, well, I hope they give him like a little longer cooling off period. And then as we're saying that, he's walking in and he was perfectly calm. And I think, if we're going to criticize him for his postgame presser from a couple weeks ago, I think we have to give him credit for this one, because I thought he was calm, collected. Yes. I thought he answered the questions really well. He addressed the problems. He didn't he wasn't sassy. He didn't get offended by any of our questions, and he answered every single one. So
he was very good.
We don't need to litigate every press conference, but credit where it's due.
This was much better. Yeah, he was much better. But just that image of Glenn being beat red and like he wasn't literally doing this, but like throwing chairs and breaking TVs and stuff, and Brees Hall just like bobbing his head in the cold tub after the game, forgetting all of it. It's like the "this is fine" meme, where like the dogs and the house is on fire and the dog's just sitting there drinking tea. Yeah. That's Brees Hall in the cold tub. It's hysterical. Look, Zach, the team's 0-4. They're going to miss the playoffs unless they basically set NFL history or become the second team in NFL history to make the playoffs after 0-4. Will be the 15th straight year they haven't made the playoffs. That is the longest drought in American professional sports. I imagine that we're coming close to that being European as well. I'm not a soccer guy or football over there. We'll have to get someone to check, but I'm sure we're pretty close. Maybe there's a cricket team that hasn't made it in 16 years, but we'll figure it out. But we're gonna for the final segment on this game, let's do a total change of pace and let's talk a little positivity. Can you give me one good thing that a Jets fan can be happy about right now?
Mason Taylor is the one I wanted to focus on because he's someone that they made it a point like we have to give him the ball more. He had shown flashes through the first 3 games, and they need, we keep saying, they need somebody to emerge in this passing game, and I think he did a really, really good job. He made some plays. He got open. He ran some really good routes. I think he finally started to see a lot of the potential we saw in training camp. And I think going forward, he's going to be a pretty heavy part of this offense, and that would be huge for Justin Fields, who needs kind of that safety valve in the middle of the field, not named Garrett Wilson, because nobody else has emerged. And so as you go forward, I mean, if you're a fantasy owner, not to get into fantasy, but I think Mason Taylor's a guy that you should keep an eye on going forward, because I think he's going to be pretty heavy a part of this passing game now, especially now that we know without a shadow of a doubt that these wide receivers are going to add nothing to the passing game. So you have Mason Taylor, you have Breece Hall, and you have Garrett Wilson, and that's pretty much it.
Again, I understand you can't fix every problem in one off season, but what problem did the Jets fix? I don't. Yeah. I don't. The problem was Robert Saleh, and okay, you fix that problem. Although Robert Saleh was off in San Francisco talking about ending people, so that's pretty funny. I just don't. I don't know what you fixed. Every problem that we talked about before free agency and the draft, when you're supposed to be adding players, all of those problems are still there. But we're supposed to be positive, so forget that. Strike that from the record. Sam, producer God, hit the dump button to take that out and post op. My positive that I'm going to go with is Armand Membu. Zach, we were concerned about this dude coming out, were we not? I mean, he didn't look great in training camp.
You were more concerned than me, I would say.
That's fair. Will McDonald was beating him up. Jermaine Johnson was beating him up. Michael Clemens made some plays against him. I mean, I don't think he was great. He's been tremendous to start this. And I know the Jets are helping him a little bit, but he's pancaking guys. He's been a stout force on the right side. And I know Olu's been going through it a little bit, had a much better game here against the Miami Dolphins. But Membu is somebody for me that I think is starting to turn the corner. And the Jets line is they got some issues, obviously, without Elijah Vera Tucker. We talked about that because now you got Tittman playing out of position. Myers isn't very good, and he's starting for this team now. That's just unfortunately going to be something you have to deal with all this year. But those bookend tackles are legit. And John Simpson, even though he had a bad game here against the Dolphins, I think he's pretty legit too. So Membu, to me, is my positivity. All right. You want to talk a little Cowboys? Talk a little.
Yeah. How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? Zach, they have a very good offense.
Even without CD.
Without CD, that's a very good offense. Noticed that when they played the Giants. Thought that when they played the Philadelphia Eagles in the opener. Confirmed that when they dropped 40 on a very good Packers team and a very good Packers defense. For a Jets defense that's going through it, that based off of what we've seen so far, the Jets offense should be able to put 21 to 28 points on the scoreboard against the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how I feel about the Jets stopping Dallas from dropping like 30 or 40 on them. Like this Cowboys offense is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean this is a game where you need Sauce to step up because George Pickens look dominant against the Packers, and they don't really have other wide receivers that really scare you, I would say. So Sauce needs to shut down George Pickens. I would think he travels with him. And, you have Jake Ferguson, who's pretty good in their passing game. Javonte Williams has been kind of a revelation as a runner for them. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, and honestly, former Jet coordinator Brian Schottenheimer deserves a lot of credit because he has that offense like humming, and they're kind of shorthanded. So, their defense is pretty bad. But again, it's what we talked about earlier. Like, if the Jets are going to beat a team like the Cowboys, it's probably got to be in a shootout. And can Justin Fields take advantage of a really bad defense? Like, we need to see it. Like in the passing game, like he can run. They can run the poo out of it, as I like to say. But can they pass the poo out of it?
An underrated aspect of this is that Aaron Whitecotton, who was the Jets defensive line coach under Robert Saleh, not your normal D-line coach, though, because he was very involved in everything. In fact, even if you go back and look at when the Jets would make draft picks, one of the first person that ends up coming into the draft room is Whitecotton. Like, the Jets would send him out there advanced scouting. The Jets would send him to colleges to scout. Like, he was involved in free agency stuff, not just defensive line. They were prepping him for a role all over the place, and he's a very, very smart guy. He has the book on the Jets. Brees, Garrett, the offensive linemen that are here, the defensive linemen that are here. I'm curious how much intel, and I know it's different, but still just the overall evaluation of what guys do well, but more importantly, what do they struggle with? Because when you're a coach for a player, you know more of what he struggles with because you're dealing with him every single day than guys who are even just scouting from afar. Curious if that will come into play here, and if the Cowboys don't have a little bit of an edge here on the Jets because of that. Did mention this earlier in the show. I do want to repeat it because I think it's an amazing stat. The last time a first-year Jets coach was 0-4 was Adam Gase, which wasn't too long ago. It was 2 coaches. But he got his first win in Week 5 at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Now Aaron Glenn will have his opportunity Week 5 at home against the Cowboys. That was Sam Darnold's return from mono game, and Sam is not returning from mono here for the Jets. But that was Robbie Anderson, ridiculous
Chosen.
play, like 70, 80-yard touchdown. One thing I'll always remember about that, Zach, is I called that play. The Jets were taking the field at like the 10-yard line, and I was like, they should throw one deep to Robbie Anderson, and that's what they did for like an 80-yard touchdown. So shout out me for that one. Jamal Adams also made a really big play on Dak Prescott down by the goal line. If I'm not mistaken, Greg Williams sent him on a blitz, and that got the Jets going a little bit because they were 0-4 at that point. They finished the season 7-9. I mean, it was a fake 7-9. They beat up on a bunch of really bad football teams, but still, they finished 7-9, which is a pretty impressive mark considering what they've been doing in recent years. Line going into this one. 2.5. Cowboys are road favorites. Let's go with Brooke. Let's go with Brooke's pick here. I think we have it clipped. She got her first game right last week. Yeah.
Right. So which one? This one right here? That's your pick? All right. Let's see what it is. The Cowboys.
There we go. She's riding high. She was actually like. I tried to get a video last week of her, Zach, and she was literally rolling around on the couch, like crying. And I was trying to explain to her, like, Brooke, I know you're 0-3, but as somebody who is a very bad bettor, you just got to keep firing, hon. Just keep firing. Eventually, your luck's going to turn around.
That's terrible advice. That's terrible advice.
God, she's going to keep betting. So shout out Brooke. We all bounced back. So this is the first week this season where all 3 of us went 1-0. We all picked the Dolphins. We all were right. Brooke obviously picked the Dolphins. This week, Brooke picks the Cowboys, and this week I am also going to pick the Cowboys. I think it could be a close game. I don't see until I see the Jets defense put together a complete game. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of this team. I'm terrified of what this team might do or won't do, and it's give me the Cowboys. Give me the Cowboys, Zach, until the Jets defense can show they can stop anyone.
I feel like we get to a point in every Jets season where I say I'm not going to pick the Jets to win until they prove to me that they can do that. So like that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, they can cover.
So,
they can cover here. They don't have to win. They're underdogs. So
yeah, I'm aware, and I'm actually surprised this line is only 2.5. Frankly, after the Cowboys dropped 40 points, so I'll take the Cowboys minus 2.5 as well. And then before we
home team always gets 3 though. The home team always gets 3. So if this is
Dallas, I think that's not quite the same as it used to be. I think they changed that rule a little bit. But before we get to the closing out part, my mother-in-law sent a great photo as we were on the show. Not of you or anything, but of this set up for Halloween where it says the last New York Jets Super Bowl party, and there's all these skeletons and stuff. I thought that was so funny. I had to share it. Shout out to my mother-in-law Sharon. I think there's Joe Namath jersey there. Looks like Freddy Krueger. So I thought that was hilarious. You know, we had to laugh a little bit at our.
Is that their
right?
place? Because I know you
No,
married into Jet fans.
I did marry into a Jet family, but no, that is
even
not
though your
their
wife
house.
is not a Jet fan. I think that's my favorite thing. It's like her. That's my favorite thing about
It's
it.
more because she doesn't care about the NFL. One of my nephews is a diehard Broncos fan because of his dad, her brother-in-law, my brother-in-law now. So there's some Broncos fans in that house too, I would say.
There you go. All right, it'll make the London game fun. All right,
Exactly.
So all of us are riding the Cowboys. We're all Cowboys minus 2.5 going into this game, right?
Yep, we're all Cowboys.
We got to get like Sam and everybody in on picks as well. It shouldn't just be the 3 of us picking. Who knows? Maybe one of those guys will go on a freaking heater. Sam has just told me she's taking the Cowboys with absolutely no hesitation. So that was very quick.
Wow.
Yeah, Sam back from vacation and just immediately like we're going Cowboys. That was a fun episode, Zach. I thought so, right?
That was great.
I mean, we're getting really good at covering these losses. I'm kind of ready for a win, just something different, because I genuinely think that we do these segments like we do every show is broken up, like part 1, or topic 1, topic 2. If they lose here to the Cowboys, I think a set topic every single week is now going to have to be draft watch. No? Am I wrong on that? Like, I think we should do, let me know your opinion on this. Let's spitball this one in real time. Like, a quarterback report. So we'll talk about, like, Drew Alar, the kid from LSU.
Good excuse to get Connor Rogers on, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, that's usually what we do, him and Brugler. Oh, let's just replace us with Brugler and him and just have them yell at each other draft guys for a day. That'd be fun. Give us a day off. Maybe we'll do that when we're both coming home from London. We'll do one of those.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right, so this has been Jets Final Drive. Thank you guys so much for joining wherever you joined us from. I mean, we simulcast all over the place, sny.tv, X as well. We talk about it, though. YouTube is the place to be. Wherever you're going to watch us, the reason why we like X, or reason why we like YouTube, I'm sorry, is just because of that live chat where you guys can talk to us, interact with us about the show. We took 3 or 4 questions today as well. It's so much fun, and it is always a blast. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things about this show is the fact that we can interact with you guys there. But the benefit of being over there on YouTube is that you can subscribe to SMY's YouTube channel. And if you are subscribing to SMY's YouTube channel, guess what? You get access to the putback. You get access to Jets Mailbag. You get access to Jets pre- and post-game live, Mets content, Yankees content, all that stuff. So make sure you stay tuned to SMY's YouTube channel. It is the place to be. As for us here on Jets Final Drive, you guys should know it by now. We are coming your way after every single Jets game, the day after every single Jets game. Timing sometimes changes, earlier if it's a home game, later if it's a road game. But we will see you on Jets Final Drive next week. Jets Mailbag coming later this week. Make sure you guys tweet me or Janae Coakley your questions so we can answer them. I'm sure there's going to be a lot. As for Zach, you can have more of him on Jets Flight Plan, part of the Badlands family with him and Tim McMaster. I think that pretty much covers everything with where we're all going to be, right, Zach? Did I miss anything?
Yep, and at The Athletic, of course, to read all my content.
Yes, of course. I forgot. Yeah, God, that's bad by me. Yeah. All right, so let me get everyone right. For Zack Rosenblatt, I am Connor Hughes. Also for Brian Pincus, Sam Candell, Corey Palmer, and executive producer Jeff Goldman. This has been Jets Final Drive. Thank you guys so much for watching. Did I screw it up? Oh, no, I did it right. That was
you
Sam
got it.
got
You
me
got
here
it.
and told me it was right. Yeah. So I thought I had Zach telling me I didn't get it right. This has been Jets Final Drive, and we'll see you later in the week for Jets Mailbag and next week for another episode of Jets Final Drive. Been a blast. Maybe the Jets will win. Probably not, but we'll see you either way.